Here's a statistic that will shock you. If addiction was truly a choice, why do 85% of the people who try to quit substances on the basis of willpower relapses within the first year? In this video, I'm going to walk you through the neurobiological evidences that will fundamentally change how you understand addiction and why it matters to everyone. Let's talk about what actually happens in a brain with addiction. When substances flood mesolimbic dopamine system, the brain's reward system, it generates 2 to 10 times higher dopamine levels than the natural reward. But here's the critical part. Chronic exposure doesn't just hijack the system, it restructures it. Now, the brain's reward system becomes hypersensitive to drug signals, while at the same time, the number of dopamine receptors goes down. This means your brain start craving drugs more, but at the same time, you start feeling less pleasure from normal activities. This creates a condition what we call anhedonia, means the inability to feel pleasure from normal activity. Meanwhile, the anterior cingulate cortex, the part responsible for executive decision making, shows decreased gray matter volume in neuroimaging studies. But the most compelling evidence, the insula, the brain's region responsible for interoceptive awareness and craving stimuli, shows hyperactivation in response to drug related stimuli, even after years of abstinence. This isn't willpower failure. This is neuroplasticity gone wrong. Now, let's examine genetic architecture of addiction. Twin studies consistently shows heritability rates between 40 to 70% for substance use disorder. Specific polymorphisms in genes like DRD2-COMT and ALDH2 significantly influence addiction vulnerability. But here it gets fascinating. Life experiences and stress can actually change how our genes work. This is called epigenetics. For example, childhood trauma can leave marks on our DNA that raise the risk of addiction later in life. Another example could be the MAOA gene. Certain variants, when combined with early trauma, creates what researchers call a perfect storm for addiction risk. That is not about weakness. It is about how genes and environment interacts long before any conscious choice is made. The ACE study, adverse childhood experiences, shows something striking. People with 4 or more ACEs are 7 times more likely to develop alcoholism. Why? Because ongoing stress in childhood disrupts the body's stress system, keeping the cortisol levels high. In this state, substances are not used for fun, but to calm that nervous system which is feeling on the edge. We see this clearly in dual diagnosis cases, where 60% of the clients are also struggling with PTSD, depression, or anxiety. For them, substance use is just a symptom for a deeper issue, not the main problem. Here's what the choice model gets wrong. It assumes the brain is fully healthy, but chronic consumption of substance actually shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps us to plan, control impulses, and decision making. Brain scans even show reduced activity here, almost like a mild brain injury. At the same time, the limbic system, the survival driven part of the brain, the emotional part of the brain, becomes overactive. So, when a person in addiction uses again, it's not simply a choice. Their ability to weigh consequences is weakened, while the urge to seek relief is intensified. Even after someone stops using, these changes in the brain can last for months or years. That's why recovery isn't just about willpower. It requires therapy, structure, and support to help the brain heal and relearn balance. Like, share, and subscribe for more insightful videos.